we are not only too late for them, we are underestimating the huge role others can play in shaping our most formative years too.
One morning, you wake up and discover that the estate your family has benefited from for nearly 2 decades, the one that paid your salary, housed your influence, and cemented your place inside the most powerful royal household on earth, no longer belongs to the person who welcomed you in. It belongs to someone else now, someone younger, someone with a very long memory, someone who watched his mother suffer and never forgot why. That is exactly what is happening inside the British royal family right now. And the woman at the center of it, the one whose family is quietly fuming, whose sister has already been removed from the payroll, and whose future access to some of the most iconic private estates in the world is no longer guaranteed, is Queen Camilla herself. The shift has already begun, and by the time this video is over, you will understand exactly what is being transferred, what is being taken away, and what it means for the future of the British monarchy. The inheritance that changed everything. September 8, 2022. Queen Elizabeth II passed away at Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands. Within hours, the world was in mourning. Flags lowered. Crowds gathered outside palace gates. A nation wept for the only monarch most of its citizens had ever known. But inside the palace, something else was already happening. Quietly, automatically, and with the full force of centuries of constitutional law behind it. Power was transferring, not slowly, not ceremonially, instantly. The moment Elizabeth's heart stopped, her son became King Charles III. And the moment Charles became king, his son William automatically became the Duke of Cornwall, inheriting control of one of the largest and most valuable private estates on the planet. Let that sink in for a moment. William was 40 years old. He had spent his entire life preparing to be king one day, somewhere in the future, far off, abstract. And then, in a single afternoon in the Scottish Highlands, the future arrived, not in the form of a crown, in the form of a spreadsheet, a land registry, a financial empire stretching across 135,000 acres of English soil, the Duchy of Cornwall, valued at approximately $1.2 billion. This is not a symbolic title. This is a working, revenue-generating machine that encompasses 135,000 acres of land, nearly 19,000 of those acres in Cornwall alone, almost the entire Isles of Scilly off the Cornish coast, vast swathes of Dartmoor and Devon, significant properties in Herefordshire and Somerset, and a substantial portfolio of financial investments. King Edward III created the duchy in 1337 for his son Edward, the Black Prince, the first Duke of Cornwall. The charter was explicit. The Duke of Cornwall must always be the monarch's eldest surviving son and heir to the throne. Nearly 700 years of unbroken history passed to William on that September afternoon, and in 2025, that inheritance generated approximately $30 million in a single year, from tenant farmers, holiday cottages, land rights, financial investments, and centuries of accumulated assets. William controls all of it. Now here is the question I want you to think about as we go further. When you inherit that much power, how do you use it? And who do you remove first? The Queen's private estates. What Charles owns and what William will inherit next. The Duchy of Cornwall is enormous, but it is only part of the picture. To understand the full scale of what is being transferred and what Camilla's family stands to lose,
I don't want to be scared too much, but it's that sort of frisson, isn't there? I've just been a little bit frightened.
you need to understand 2 other properties that sit at the very heart of the British royal family's private life. Sandringham House in Norfolk, Balmoral Castle in the Scottish Highlands. These are not crown property. They are not owned by the state, managed by government committees, or administered by the Crown Estate. They are personally owned by the monarch, inherited privately, passed down through generations like a family home, except on a scale that most people cannot conceive of. Sandringham has been the private country retreat of the royal family since Queen Victoria's era. It is where the royals gather for Christmas, where prime ministers arrive for audiences away from the glare of London, where the family grieves, rests, argues, and reconnects. It was personally owned by Queen Elizabeth II, inherited from her father King George VI. When Elizabeth died in September 2022, Sandringham passed directly to King Charles III. Balmoral Castle covers 53,680 acres of the Scottish Highlands, ancient, breathtaking, and deeply private. Prince Albert originally purchased it for Queen Victoria. Elizabeth inherited it from her father. Charles inherited it from his mother. It was at Balmoral that Elizabeth drew her final breath. Forbes estimated Queen Elizabeth's personal fortune at $500 million at the time of her death. This figure included her private jewelry collection, her art investments, and crucially, both Sandringham and Balmoral.
What if I told you that Balmoral Castle, yes, the British royal family's estate itself, might be an option?
The royal family's total wealth, land, property, and investments combined, has been valued at a minimum of £18 billion. Right now, Sandringham and Balmoral belong to Charles. He and Camilla use them as private retreats. Her family has had access to these properties. Her sister has worked on the estates. The financial and personal benefits have been significant. But Charles will not live forever. When King Charles III passes away, Sandringham and Balmoral will pass to William, automatically. As personally owned royal property, they will transfer to the new monarch. At that moment, Camilla will no longer be the woman of the house at either estate. She will be a guest, dependent entirely on William's willingness to invite her. Do you think William will extend that courtesy to Camilla when the time comes? Think carefully before you answer, because his recent actions suggest he has already decided. The Annabel Elliot affair, the removal that sent shockwaves. Now we arrive at the moment that made Camilla's family sit up and take notice. Annabel Elliot, 75 years old, interior designer of considerable reputation and talent, known for her distinctive style, traditional English country house elegance fused with modern livability. Her work graces some of the most admired interiors in Britain. She is also Queen Camilla's younger sister, her closest confidant, the family member Camilla trusts above all others. And for nearly 20 years, Annabel Elliot was on the payroll of the British royal family. When Charles married Camilla in 2005, he hired her sister as his interior designer. Over the following 2 decades, she was paid to design and manage the interiors of Duchy of Cornwall properties across England, Wales, and the Isles of Scilly. The annual amounts varied, ranging from £19,625 in quieter years to £82,272 when larger projects demanded her attention, and were documented publicly in the Duchy's annual financial accounts. For 20 years, she shaped the look and feel of some of the most charming royal properties in the entire collection. Her fingerprints are on holiday cottages that generations of lucky guests have enjoyed. Her taste influenced spaces that carry the visual identity of the Duchy. Then William took over as Duke of Cornwall, and Annabel Elliot was quietly removed from the payroll. No grand announcement, no press conference, no public dispute, just a name that disappeared from the Duchy's financial records, noticed first by royal watchers who scrutinized these documents with forensic attention, and then reported with mounting significance across the royal press. Royal expert Emmy Griffiths described it plainly. Annabel had been working across properties owned by the Duchy of Cornwall, but since Prince William took over as Duke of Cornwall, he took her off the payroll. That, Griffiths noted, caused a few ripples. Ripples? That may be an understatement, because it was not simply the removal that carried the message. It was what William did next. In Annabel's place, William brought in his own people, his friends, the godparents of his children, Harry Aubrey Fletcher and William Van Cobb, were given roles at the estate. Out with Camilla's family, in with William's inner circle. The message required no translation, no press release. No royal spokesman needed to explain what was happening. Everyone in and around the palace understood immediately. This is William's duchy now, his rules, his people. And here is what I want you to consider. Is this simply good management? A future king streamlining a billion-dollar estate? Or is this something more personal? Something rooted in a history that no amount of formal acceptance can fully erase? The history that never goes away. To understand why every decision William makes about the duchy carries emotional weight far beyond its financial value, you have to go back to a boy growing up in a palace, back to a marriage that was collapsing in front of him, back to a mother who was suffering. Prince William grew up watching Princess Diana endure a marriage that was, at its core, being undermined by another relationship. The affair between Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles was not a secret within the family. In a 1994 television interview, Charles confirmed it publicly, a moment that detonated across Britain and left Diana.
Thursday marks 20 years since Princess Diana was killed in a car crash inside a Paris tunnel.
And her sons to deal with the fallout. Diana spoke about her pain, about the loneliness, about loving a man who loved someone else. William and Harry, as young boys, were not shielded from all of it. They heard, they watched, they absorbed. When Diana died in that Paris tunnel in August 1997, William was 15 years old. Harry was 12. They were boys who had lost their mother, suddenly, violently, publicly, in the most traumatic circumstances imaginable. And then they were required to grieve publicly, to walk behind her coffin through the streets of London while the entire world watched. William has, by every outward measure, made his peace with Camilla. He attended his father's wedding to her in 2005. He interacts with her publicly with civility and even warmth at official events. He has never made a public statement against her. He has conducted himself, in this regard, with extraordinary maturity. But there is a distinction, one that matters enormously in this story, between accepting Camilla as part of the family and accepting her relatives on the royal payroll. The Duchy of Cornwall is not a family dinner. It is a $1.2 billion business. It is the financial foundation of William's future reign. And William, who will one day be responsible not just for the duchy, but for the entire apparatus of the British Crown, is making it unambiguously clear his professional world will be populated by people he chose, not by people his father's second wife brought with her. This is not revenge, at least not simply revenge. It is a statement of independence, a declaration that the era of Charles, with all its relationships, its informal arrangements, its decades of personal loyalty, is ending. And the era of William is beginning. Does knowing this history change how you see William's decision? Is he acting as a future king, or as a son who never fully stopped grieving? I'd genuinely love to know what you think. Tell me in the comments. The staggering scale of what William controls. Step back for a moment and look at the full picture, because the numbers are genuinely staggering. In 2025 alone, Prince William earned approximately $30 million from the Duchy of Cornwall. That single year's income came from tenant farms, holiday properties, the Isles of Scilly.
The Isles of Scilly was a single landmass. Now it's 140 islands and 2,000 residents.
Dartmoor land rights, commercial investments, and the accumulated yield of 700 years of royal estate management. The duchy itself is valued at $1.2 billion. The broader royal family wealth across land, property, and financial investments has been assessed at a minimum of £18 billion. The sovereign grant, which funds the official working expenses of the monarchy, rose to £132 million for the 2025 to 2026 financial year. When William eventually becomes king, what he will inherit goes beyond even this. Sandringham House in Norfolk, Balmoral Castle across 53,680 acres of the Scottish Highlands, the private art collection and jewelry portfolio built across generations, the full weight of the Crown estate, valued in the tens of billions, administered on behalf of the nation. And crucially, the decisions about who lives on these estates, who works on them, who benefits from them, and who is quietly asked to leave, all of those decisions will be William's alone to make. Camilla currently lives at Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, Sandringham, and Balmoral. She has official duties, royal staff, and the full protection of her husband's reign. But if Charles dies before her, and she becomes Queen Dowager rather than Queen Consort, her position changes dramatically. She would likely inherit Clarence House, valued at approximately $72 million, and Highgrove House.
It's been King Charles's private country retreat for more than 40 years. Highgrove is known for its interlinked series of gardens,
valued at around $39 million. Financial support would be provided to maintain her standard of living. But Sandringham and Balmoral? Those passed to William. She would not live there as of right. She would live there at William's invitation. In what may be a telling sign of her own awareness of this reality, Camilla recently sold Ray Mill House in Wiltshire, her private retreat that she owned before marrying Charles, the one she described as her personal escape, calling gardening there the best therapy in the world. Selling it means her long-term property options are narrowing. Her future, in a very literal and financial sense, will depend increasingly on the goodwill of the man whose mother she once helped to hurt. Knowing all of this, do you think Camilla has ever sat in one of those Sandringham rooms and thought about what happens when William is the one who decides whether she can return? Because if she hasn't, she probably should. Catherine's rising role, the other transfer of power. While the focus naturally falls on William, his decisions, his inheritance, his management of the duchy, there is another figure in this power transfer whose role is expanding in ways that are just as significant. Catherine, Princess of Wales. When William becomes king, Catherine becomes queen consort. And with that transition comes access to an entirely new tier of royal resources, responsibilities, and symbolic authority. Right now, Catherine is already one of the most visible and beloved members of the royal family. Her return from her 2024 cancer diagnosis and treatment, conducted with grace, dignity, and remarkable transparency, solidified public affection for her in ways that years of state banquets and diplomatic tours had not fully achieved. She showed the world that she was human, that she was vulnerable, and that she intended to keep going anyway. As William's partner in managing the Duchy of Cornwall, Catherine is part of every significant decision about the estate. The people William trusts on that estate are people Catherine also knows and approves of. The vision for the duchy's future, more modern, more efficient, more clearly aligned with William's own priorities, is a shared vision. When William becomes king, Catherine will have access to the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, Queen Elizabeth II's personal favorite, the one that appeared on British currency for decades. Camilla wore it for the first time in 2024. When Catherine wears it, it will signal a generational transfer of symbolic authority as unmistakable as any coronation. And the estates, Sandringham, Balmoral, will be hers and William's to manage as they see fit, to host who they choose, to renovate as they prefer, to transform slowly into expressions of their own reign rather than their predecessors. For Camilla's family, for Annabel Elliot, who has already been removed from the duchy payroll, whose future involvement with royal properties now depends on Charles's continued patronage and William's future goodwill, Catherine's rising authority represents something clear and undeniable. The woman who will own everything is not their patron. She is not Camilla's ally. She is Camilla's successor. What do you think Catherine's relationship with Camilla will look like in 10 years? Warm? Formal? Tense? I want your honest prediction in the comments. What this means for the monarchy's future. Pull back even further, and what you see is not just a family drama. You see the British monarchy in the process of transforming itself. Every monarchy that has survived across centuries has done so by navigating the transition between eras. The moment when the old generation releases its grip, not always willingly, and the new generation begins reshaping the institution in its own image. That transition is happening right now. Not with fanfare, not with constitutional crisis, with a duchy payroll report, with a name removed from a financial document that most people never read, with new godparents appointed to estate management roles, with a tiara worn by one woman and pointedly not worn by another. These are the tools of royal power, quiet, deliberate, deniable, and absolutely unmistakable to those inside the system. After Diana died in 1997, the royal family faced its greatest modern crisis. The public perceived them as cold, disconnected, and incapable of feeling. The scenes of crowds weeping outside Buckingham Palace while the flag refused to fly at half-mast shocked the institution into a recognition it had long resisted. Symbols matter. Emotion matters. Public feeling cannot be outranked by protocol. William grew up in the aftermath of that crisis. He watched the family learn, slowly, imperfectly, sometimes unwillingly, that the monarchy's survival depended on emotional intelligence as much as constitutional authority. He absorbed that lesson more completely than almost anyone. His decisions about the Duchy of Cornwall reflect it. He is not making these changes out of cruelty or personal vendetta. He is making them because he understands that a monarchy which allows its professional structures to be populated by the relatives of previous consorts, by people whose connection to the institution is personal rather than meritocratic, is a monarchy that looks, to the watching public, like an old boys' club, or in this case, an old families' club. By bringing in his own trusted people, by drawing a clear line between Charles's era and his own, William is signaling something to the country as much as to the family. He is saying, I will run this differently. I will be accountable. The people around me will be there because I chose them, not because of who they married or who their sister married. That is, whether you agree with it or not, a modern position. It is a position that takes seriously the public's demand for a monarchy that earns its place rather than simply occupying it. Is William getting this right? Is he striking the right balance between honoring the past and building for the future? Or is he moving too fast, cutting too deep? This is genuinely one of the most important questions about the monarchy right now. Tell me where you stand. Here is the truth at the heart of this story. The British monarchy is not one thing. It is a layered institution, part family, part business, part constitutional apparatus, part living symbol. The same estate can be a personal home and a $1.2 billion financial engine at the same time. The same tiara can be a piece of jewelry and a political statement simultaneously. The same payroll decision can be a routine management choice and a deeply personal message about the limits of loyalty. William inherited 135,000 acres, a billion-dollar duchy, and the weight of nearly 700 years of royal history when his grandmother died on that September afternoon in Balmoral. He also inherited something less measurable, but no less real: the legacy of a mother who suffered, a childhood that was shaped by that suffering, and a determination, quiet, steady, and utterly unshakable, to build his future on his own terms. Annabel Elliot is off the payroll. William's friends are running the estate. Camilla sold her private retreat. Sandringham and Balmoral are waiting, patient as stone, steady as the Scottish hills, for the day they pass to a new king and his queen. And Catherine, poised, resilient, radiant in a crimson gown at Windsor Castle, wearing Diana's tiara after fighting her way back from cancer, is stepping forward into a future that will be hers to shape. The power has already shifted. Most people just haven't noticed yet. But the people inside that palace, Camilla's family, they noticed the moment Annabel's name disappeared from that financial report. They noticed. If you found this video valuable, if it gave you a clearer picture of where power truly lies inside the British royal family, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Share it with someone who follows royal news, and leave me a comment with the question you most want answered about William's future reign. I read every single one, and the best questions shape our next video. See you in the next one.